What's up, people? Welcome to this episode of the By the Hood podcast or webcast because I don't know how you're consuming this content. I'm your host as always. My name is Jimmy, and as we start off every show, that is with gratitude. Thank you to everybody who supports everything we got going on at By the Hood. This pod is a little bit late, man. We tried to drop earlier, but my brother Corey, man, his internet and electricity went out, man. He in Houston dealing with these storms. And it's craziness out there. But I told him I had an article that I definitely wanted to share for this week's pod. So pull up this Friday, 7 p.m. Eastern. We are live, as always, right here on our YouTube channel, as well as our Facebook page. But there's definitely a good article I found while just, going through my days of studying. And I wanted to bring it to the folks, man. So let's get right into it. Let's not wait. And by the way, for those listening to the audio, I will read enough for you to get the context of this conversation. I will also leave a link to this article in the show notes as well as the description. So with that being said, let's talk about it. There's an article from Market Watch, and this article says $114,000 salary makes you feel poorer than your parents. And these 6 metrics show you why, right? So the article, and again, I'm just basically going to paraphrase. I'm not going to read each line of this article. It's a little bit on the longer side, but it's a pretty good article. But it talks about how the GDP of the U.S. grew. Unemployment stands low, but Americans are feeling frustrated. And there's a lot of people who say that we're just overall pessimistic, and they keep pointing to positive economic data. But if you dig deep into the data, there is a reason why so many people are pessimistic and why their feelings really should be paid attention to, right? We can't just discount people's feelings because there's some other statistics and data that you can look at that show why people feel the way they feel. And they said this is actually not just people on the lower end of the income spectrum. The top 10% of income earners don't feel financially secure either, right? So even people that make some of the most money in our country still don't feel stable, or as they put in this article, financially secure. So let's talk about it. Here are the different reasons why. One is called the core score. The core score, it talks about your well-being as an American, and is measured on a lot of different data. I actually have an article about the core score that I'll share in the show notes as well as the description as well. But we have a low core score right now. And one of the things you can look to is the percentage of people that actually make more than their parents. First question I put out there for everybody watching and listening to this. Do you make more than your parents? Be interested to see what that response is, because the percentage of people that now make more than their parents is lower than it's ever been. It's lower than it's been in a long time, right? Since like 1980. But if you go back to the 40s, like 90% of people earn more than their parents. And now, we're below 50%. So that's it. Yeah. So most people aren't making more than their parents, which isn't the way historically that it's been in this country, right? Another factor they look at is called the income to necessities ratio, right? So it's the fact that, and we talk about this a lot and By the Hood platforms and all of our shows, we talk about the fact of cost of goods and services going up. So the things that are necessities to live is going up in a way that your income hasn't gone up. So, and that number they calculate to be 109%. So it's kind of interesting. Like people, even those that make money, it just costs more to live, right? Just for your necessities. We're not talking about you trying to ball out, talking about your necessities. That number is high. Number 3, they point to something they call unpaid work per household. In the average American household, and it says 2/3 of married families, both parents work. 2/3 now, which is higher than it's ever been. And it's a necessity for most households. It's about survival, and it's not about abundance. We talk about that a lot on here, but this article kind of backs up some of the things that we've been talking about. Survival rather than abundance, as living expenses and debt has risen. Right. And this is a study from the Brookings Institute that says that the average middle class married couple with children works a combined 3,446 hours annually, 15 additional weeks of full-time work compared to 1975. And that doesn't even include additional unpaid non-market labor, as they're still responsible for home cooking, cleaning, caring for children, older relatives, and more. So when people talk about work, they talk about their jobs. But the fact of the matter is, maintaining a household is a job, whether you want to believe it or not. When you got to cook, you got to clean, you have to take care of a household. That in itself is a job that you don't get paid for. It says on average, people are not getting paid for about $2,989 a month of work that they do, right? That was number 3. Here's number 4, the non-college income penalty. So I know we're living in a space where people are questioning the validity and the value of college, but go look at the numbers. People without a college degree still on average make less money. I know there's a wave of you don't need a college degree, just go get your certs or go into the trades, which I believe that some people should do because some people aren't college material. However, the data shows that what they're calling it a non-college income penalty. And it says the typical American adult does not have a college degree. So as people search for pathways to higher wages, there's a financial penalty for not going to college, and it can be quantified. And this comes from the Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis. They've actually looked it up. In terms of wealth and income, there is a difference between those with a college degree and those without, regardless of what your favorite financial influencer tells you on social media. Here's another one that makes people feel kind of uneasy: the ability to retire. Number 5 on here, they call it the retirement ability rate, which is 61%. So there are a number of folks who will never be able to retire. And they already understand they could be in their 30s and 40s looking at their future and say, damn, I'm not going to be able to retire. Now, I think if you're still that young, you can do something about it. But right now, there is a huge percentage of folks in this country who can't retire, right? Number 6, the last one, debt to income, right? So debt is at an all-time high. It is what it is. But then when you look at debt to income, it can become problematic in terms of the debt that people are walking around with in their income. So when you factor in all these things, right? So even when you see people who seemingly live great lives, who have great things, they're sitting on a bunch of debt. And a lot of people are feeling they're feeling the result of all of these metrics, which is why Americans tend to be pessimistic. But there's something to it. There is something to it. I mean, our system kind of like breeds this. You know what I mean? As much as we talk about different strategies and things like this is what capitalism breeds. I mean, this is the system we have, but this is what it breeds. But now, as says this article, man, it's about survival. It's not about abundance. But these are the reasons why people who make $114,000 salary, they feel like they're poor. They're poorer than their parents. The data backs that up, right? So when the data is able to back that up, this isn't just me up here pontificating. I know sometimes people say, man, y'all Wednesday show, y'all doom and gloom, but I'm reading the data. I'm looking at the actual data, man. So that's the first thing I want to know. Do you make more than your parents? And do you feel all of the things that this article talks about, right? Because we could talk about investing all day, but if there is nothing to invest, that's why I always laugh when people are like, yo, you just got to invest more. You got to stop drinking coffees. And I'm like, yo, some folks ain't got that, bro. Like, is there money to invest? Once you pay your necessities, once you pay everything you need to just survive, what is left for you to invest, right? Now, I'm also not trying to say that you can't make changes, because you can make changes. I'm not trying to be completely doom and gloom, but I also want to paint a picture of what's really going on out there, and not just be like, hey, buy my course, everything's great. Nah, FOH. Real quick, I want to share this other article with you. I'm gonna put it in the show notes as well. For those listening, I'll read a little bit about this. It goes into that core score. Here's a whole article about the core score. But what's dope about this for those watching the visual, and measures your well-being, is that you can they pull up a map of our country, and you can go through the map and see what the core score is for various counties. It's broken down by counties. And it talks about the core score being made up of things such as economic security, economic opportunity, your health, your political voice. But this is dope. So let's see if I can get this to, I know sometimes on the visual is acting up, but what's interesting is overall it's 4.91, but then you find little counties, like, I know that the map may not be showing now, but I can still pull up different counties. Like there's counties we in Kentucky right now. So let's go a little bit over. Let's see what some of these other core scores are. Some in Virginia were high. I'm like, all right, folks in Virginia and Maryland, man. Shout out to my people in Virginia and Maryland, man. Y'all, well, PG County is a little low. Sussex is a little low. But I saw a couple places in Virginia earlier when I was looking at this, like Charles City County, Virginia. Never heard of it. But they actually have a high core score. People living, at least they feel like they're living well over there. So New Kent County, Virginia, over a 6. King and Queen County, Virginia. So I never heard of some of these places, but I'm gonna share this article as well so you can play with this interactive map, and see how your county, wherever you are, because people watch us literally from all over the world, see how your county is doing in terms of the core score. But yeah, so that's the article I wanted to share with you guys, man. Like, folks are out here feeling the pinch. They're not feeling good about how things are going. And there's data to back it up. There's a lot of data to back it up. I always find it funny when people cherry pick data to talk about how great our economy is going, when those that are actually living it, they know better. And there's certain things that aren't really kept in terms of inflation to really measure how people are really dealing with it. I mean, if you're out here and you paying for food and you paying for gas, it's funny. On my speaking gig a couple weeks ago, I was talking about inflation. And a question I asked the room, I asked this to a whole room of folks. I was like, what is something that costs more now than it did 3 years ago? And almost the entire room, I would say about 95% of them said food. And they said it so fast that it was almost comical. But yeah, so people are feeling the pinch, man. There's data to back it up. So if you feel the way, that some of these folks feel, I mentioned in the article, like you're not crazy, things have changed, man. And it's also sad to see just how many people are not making more than their parents. That's very, very interesting to me. So yeah, answer that question for me. That's the one question I want to leave y'all with today. I'm gonna leave you with a bunch of questions. Do you make more than your parents? I'll be interested to see how our audience answers that question, man, because that is a sign that things are doing well. But the next generation is always supposed to do better than you. And I mean, I could see it in my family. It's some of my younger family members ain't getting to it. You know what I mean? That's because y'all bums. Anyway, I'm joking. No, I love y'all all, man. Listen, appreciate you guys. Leave me some feedback. And send a shout to my brother Corey, man. Hopefully he get his electricity and his internet back, man. Them storms in Houston is really cooking him right now. It's cooking him to the point, man. Corey talking about, I got to move. I'm like, dog, you just got down there, but he can't deal with it. So it is what it is, man. Leave us some feedback. Let us know how y'all feel about this specific episode, the data that I shared. And do you make more than your parents, man? That's the one question I got to ask you. But as we always say, it's not about how much money you make. It's about how much you keep. The game elevates. And we'll see you guys on our next episode. Peace.